Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Crowd Chatter Podcast. And today is going to be the very last episode of the season of Bubble Watch. Yes, we have come to the end. We have come to the very end, the very end of Bubble Watch season, and we are now in conference tournament. It's in full swing. The regular season for college basketball is officially over. It is now postseason time. It's now conference tournament time, and a lot of these teams still have work to do. A lot of these teams still have some things they need to get done if they want a tournament chance. So let's just get into this one. We start with the ACC with Clemson and North Carolina. One team dropped down here after a pretty bad loss to Notre Dame, and that's the Pitt Panthers. Now, Pitt is still in an okay position, but their margin for error is very small now after that loss to Notre Dame, which is a pretty bad loss. The Pitt Panthers need to be very vigilant now. Another really bad loss, which is pretty easy to find in a pretty crappy ACC. The Pitt Panthers need to be very careful because if they take another bad loss, they could put themselves out of the NCAA tournament. It's a very hard conference, the ACC, because these teams here, and I'm putting Clemson ahead of UNC, because all these teams here, if they take a bad loss to a bad team, which is basically from like 10 to 15, or really even 9 and 8 is probably not going to get past Miami. But you take a loss to any of those teams from like 10 through 15, and maybe Virginia Tech would be your best chance at a not so bad loss. You take a loss to any of those teams, and your tournament hopes are done. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that all three of these, well, two of these teams, I believe that both Pitt and North Carolina are set up to play one of those teams. And so, for both of those two, you take a bad loss, you're in trouble. And so they have to win. It's a must win from. I mean, yeah, Pitt is set to play either Florida State or Georgia Tech. Both of those teams are below 500. And North Carolina is set to play either Boston College or Louisville. Now, Boston College is a little closer to the 500 mark, but Louisville, of course, is a 4-win team, so you can't lose to them. So, I mean, neither of those two have any room for error. As for Clemson, they'll get either Virginia Tech, NC State, or Notre Dame. Obviously, they want NC State because that'd be a good win for them. If you don't get NC State, you might have to try and beat Virginia or North Carolina, which is or if North Carolina and Virginia end up losing to BC or Louisville, you'd have to beat them. So not a good situation for these three teams. Really unfortunate that they're stuck with such a difficult ACC where there's just not many opportunities, and all the opportunities are in front of them, so they need to win. So really tough for these three. As for the Big 12, Oklahoma State is the only team that is staying in work to do for the Big 12. West Virginia moved up to should be in, and Texas Tech, well, they didn't win a single game to end the season, so they drop out. Oklahoma State, their conference record is actually a little better than West Virginia. I believe they are 8-9 in conference play. But the unfortunate thing for Oklahoma State was they had such a pitiful end to their season. I mean, they ended it with a win over Texas Tech, but after they won on the road against Iowa State, they lost five straight to Kansas. I mean, all of them the good teams. I mean, Kansas, TCU, West Virginia, Kansas State, Baylor. Those are all good teams. But they needed one of those wins, and they got none of them. And a couple of them, they got manhandled. I mean, they got blown out by TCU 100-75. Lost to West Virginia 85-67. Even against Kansas, lost by 11, so 3 different double-digit losses. That really hurts Oklahoma State, of which, 3 games came at home and they weren't, and, they lost all 3. So really damaging for Oklahoma State. They're still clinging on to tournament life, but now in their first game in the tournament, they have to play Oklahoma, and I believe their next game would come against Texas. And Texas is a pretty darn good team, so that's going to be a really tough ask for Oklahoma State to be able to go out there and steal one from the Longhorns, which would put them in, I think, in a tournament. But that's a very hard ask for these Cowboys, in my opinion. And next we go to the Big East, which, yeah, there's no one here. Seton Hall was here for a bit, but they kept losing games. They had opportunities, they lost them all, which has taken them out of this category. Next we go to the Big Ten, and this one's going to have some movement. We're adding a team. We're going to drop out one, and yeah, I'm not even going to talk about. Well, actually, I think we're dropping out 2, but yeah, I'm not talking about one of them. But Rutgers joins this category after a loss to Minnesota. Um, Obviously, really, really unfortunate for the Scarlet Knights to take a loss to the Gophers. They really obviously could not afford that kind of a loss, and obviously that significantly hurts their chances. Nebraska, when I put in Nebraska, I said they had to pretty much win out to have a chance. They did beat Iowa, which was a good win for them, but they ended up losing that Michigan State game, and so that is the sole reason I'm taking out Nebraska. Should they have beaten Michigan State, which they were seemingly on pace to do until a collapse midway through the second half, of where Sparty went on the enormous run to basically put it away for Michigan State. Should they have beaten them, they would still be here, but they took an unfortunate loss, which has pushed them out of Bubble Watch. Yeah, we're not going to talk about this. Yeah, we're not talking about that. Moving on to the Pac-12. Yes, I do not want to talk about them. Yeah, I just don't. I'm done. Uh, I don't know what to say about them. I really don't. Going to the Pac-12, USC and Arizona State were the 2 teams that I had here from a week ago. Arizona State's going to remain here. They did lose the USC, or not, well, yes, USC, but he lost to UCLA on the road, which was unfortunate, and they took a 3-point loss on the road to USC. That was a huge game for Arizona State. They just came up short. And USC, obviously, they needed that one too, as they're ran a bowl as well. But Arizona State just came up short, and they'll probably have yet another chance against USC in the Pac-12 tournament, as they first will get to play Oregon State, of which they obviously can't lose, and then if they win, they would go and play USC. Obviously, a huge game for both teams. We'd see who gets it, but that's a big one. Both of these teams, the only 2 teams that remain from the Pac-12. I know some people are listing Oregon as a work-to-do team. I'm sorry, a team that can't even beat, what was it, UC Irvine or something like that. A UC Irvine loss, only a 18-13 team and a pitiful Pac-12 with not just not just one bad loss, but multiple bad losses to multiple bad teams. I mean, UC Irvine, Utah Valley got destroyed by Colorado, lost to Stanford, lost to both Washington and Washington State. I mean, they have so many bad losses, and they don't have nearly enough good wins to offset it. they have some good wins, but they don't have enough. So they are not a work to do team for me. They're going to have to win the Pac-12 championship to to get to the tournament. As for the SEC, Auburn comes out as they are in the should be in status now. Um, and Mississippi State remains a bubble team. They are squarely on the bubble right now. They could not be any more directly. They couldn't be sitting any closer to the cut line right now. And then another team has now started to pop up on bubbles now as they got huge wins. As I did say, even though they had lost to LSU, I did say that Vanderbilt would have to win out to have a chance. And guess what? They did just that. They beat Florida, they beat Kentucky on the road, and then they beat Mississippi State. All good wins. Florida maybe the least impressive, but two big wins against two big teams. You also got the win over Tennessee. You also got the win over Auburn. You also have a win over Arkansas. You got plenty of good wins in the conference. You also got a win over Pitt. So Vandy's got the wins, and now they're pushing their way into the tournament. They still need probably another win or two to feel good about a tourney chance. But Vandy's in a decent spot right now. We'll see if they can push themselves the rest of the way. But congratulations to the Vanderbilt Commodores as they proved me right, and they get to stay here. And on other bubble watches, they're popping up now. So congratulations to the Commodores. And then we go to the miscellaneous category here. Memphis, Boise State both graduated to should be in status. So did FAU, and I have Charleston there. Most people don't. In Nevada and Utah State, they both remain here. Oral Roberts, they really have not beaten anybody, but they haven't lost any bad teams either, which is why they stay here. Because, I mean, in all likelihood, most people would probably say, yeah, ORU is probably going to win the summit and is probably just going to get an automatic bid anyway. And so, or Roberts probably won't need a at-large bid, but should they need it, they're in a somewhat precarious position. And this is really because other teams have put them in here, but I'm going to add another team out of the CUSA. They haven't really beaten anyone, but they're also kind of one of those teams that hasn't really lost to a really bad team yet, and that is actually North Texas. Yeah, we have two teams that could possibly make it this year coming out of CUSA. North Texas, they haven't really beaten anybody. I know ESPN's actually had them on there for a bit, but I believe but North Texas, I mean, they're an okay team. They need some work. They obviously have work to do. They obviously need some wins. They obviously don't really have room for error. And if they do take a bad loss, if they do take an early loss, they're obviously not going to have any chance at the tournament. But I think for North Texas, they have a okay chance as you look at their resume. They lost to St. Mary's, who is obviously a very, very good team. So I don't think anyone is going to flame you for that kind of a loss. They also lost to North Carolina Wilmington, who is a 23-9 team. Not a terrible loss. And then you got swept by FAU, obviously FAU, very good team. They also lost to Rice, who is not the greatest team, who isn't necessarily the greatest team at 17-14. And then I believe their other loss comes to, I believe it's Charlotte. Yes, the Charlotte. They lost that one by 6. Charlotte, just a little better than Rice at 18-13. So really two not so great losses, both of them on the road though. but not really a great loss to help, or great win to help them. North Texas likely is going to need they're probably going to need to win the CUSA to get in, but who knows? If they get some help, North Texas might be in a good spot. That's it. That's it for this video, though. That's it for Bubble Watch, and that is it for the season. Our next time we'll be doing a college basketball episode. Our next week, our college basketball episode. This is it for Bubble Watch. These are what these teams need to do to get in. Penn State and Wisconsin. I actually didn't mention them earlier, but Penn State, Wisconsin, both could probably need a win or two to have much hope in a tournament spot. Penn State has made quite a run at the end here, getting a win against Maryland and also getting a win, I'm pretty sure, against somebody else. So big wins for Penn State. As for Wisconsin, they didn't really do themselves any favors beating anybody. So, being a 12 seed in the Big Ten, they really need to get a win. Now, I don't think beating Ohio State is going to do anything for them, but Wisconsin needs at least one good win. And if they do beat Ohio State, I think their next opponent is, if I remember correctly, their next opponent would be, God, who is their next opponent? Maryland. I believe their next opponent, if they were to beat Ohio State, would be Maryland, which would be a big game for Wisconsin. They would need to, if they win that one, I think Wisconsin's good. If they don't, well, they're subject to whatever the rest of the country does. So that's it for this video. As I said, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next time, adios, everyone.